Hey guys, it's Tarek with Cyclone FPV. I'm going to do a real quick repair here and show you guys how to fix a antenna on a FrSky receiver. So what we're going to work with today, and I've got to use this real quick. So we are going to be looking at the X4R. And on the X4R on this particular series, I'll try to show you this so you can see it's where the antenna is actually soldered on, and it doesn't use one of these clips like the IPEX clips or what have you. When you need to solder one like this, I'm going to go through a real quick step on how to do it. And to do that, I'm going to get on the bench here. So for this, you're going to need some solder paste. At least that's what I recommend is solder paste. And I've got my receiver, and I've got a replacement antenna right here, but it's got the connection on it that we're going to remove. And you'll need a flux pen, something like this. And again, these aren't necessary. I guess you could try it out your own way, but this is what I'm going to be using in mine. And then I'm just going to walk you through the steps on this, okay? So we're going to kind of jump right into it. Try to get all my other stuff out of the way here. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do, and I'll see if I can zoom in here just a little bit so I can give you an idea, and I'll try to not go off screen here, so if I need to stay around this area. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure to clean our ends off here, and this is where I would put a flux pen on, right? So I'd go ahead and just apply some flux onto there. And we've got our good soldering points already. So let me see if I can find a pointer here. So we've got a good soldering points here. And see if I can get just a little bit more in on that. All right, so we've got one soldering point, which is going to be right here. And then we've got the larger pad, which is going to be right here. And so here's how you're going to go ahead and do this. Now, I already did this one. And I was like, well, hey, you know what? I'll just show you guys how to do it. So here's what I did to make this work, okay? And so let me zoom out now and give you an idea. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to come on in and you're just going to cut right below the heat shrink that they applied. Go ahead and just cut that right off, all right? You can get rid of that. That's not going to have any use for you. And then get your wire strippers and kind of take off, use the largest setting. And all you want to do is you want to take off the outside silicone wrapping here and expose this area right here, right? So this is, you're actually going to be using some of this. I'm going to go take a little bit more off. And there's no harm in taking too much off because you're going to end up soldering and cutting it back anyway. Now, at this point, you need to kind of, you need to kind of just keep twisting it and pulling it to where you can get it to unravel a little bit because you're going to have to solder that end. And so let me show you what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of pulling it forward and then I'm twisting it a little bit, and it's woven around the wire. So as you can see here, and I'll show you guys in a second just a little bit more, but what you want to do is you want to just make sure to separate, kind of have a clean separation between that and the center wire that's here. So let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so once you pull it and you separate it and so forth, now you may cut some strands, and that's fine. I'm not really worried about that too much, but you want to kind of clean it up, all right? And this is what you end up getting left with, okay? And I'll show you this here in a second. So you're going to be left with a twisted area here. And let's see if I can show you this. So you want to basically have your center area. Let me see if I can cover. There you go. So you've got the center. You've got your center area here, which is still protected by another silicone sheathing, and then you've got this woven wire here, right? That was wrapped around. So you want to take this wire here and go ahead and you can. Just make sure it's clean. Make sure it's separated real well, all right? And then I would take the silicone paste and I would dunk this straight into the silicone and just press it in there. You should be able to get it in there, and if you can't, you can just take like I don't know, a little screwdriver or something. Let me grab like a larger end screwdriver. I'm just gonna press it in then because I want to get that paste on there really good, and then just kind of hold it as you pull it out there. There. All right. So once you have your and you can see here, you've got some of that silicone, you've got some of that paste now, that flux paste on there now. All right, so just use your fingers to kind of twist it on in there. And then with that, you can go ahead and solder that end. Let me see if I can get that, there you go. So I'm just gonna apply some solder now to that, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So we just wanna kind of get this solid and soldered nicely, all right? All right, so I'll show you now what this looks like. Okay, so when you're done, and I think we need like a back color here. Give me 1 second. We'll see if I can find a piece of paper or something to kind of use as a backing. Okay, so if you look at that, you're going to see that darker silver now is actually the outer sheathing that we put the flux paste on, and that has now been soldered. Okay, so that's pretty solid. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove a very small portion of the wire from this silicone sheathing here in the center. So for that, I'm just going to use the smallest end on my my strippers here, and I'm going to expose that real quick, and I'm going to twist it up so we don't have any strands loose. All right. Okay. So now that we've got that and it's stripped up there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip that into the solder paste as well, just like this. All right. And now we can put the solder paste aside. And I'm just going to go ahead and solder. I'm going to pre-tin that as well right now. So let me do that. And there we go. All right. So now we've got our wires pre-tinned. And what we're looking at, again, I'm going to try to see, maybe I can find something else that acts as a better background. Well, maybe a piece of silver will help. I don't know. But as you can see now, we've got both ends tinned. All right. And so now what we want to do is we want to grab our receiver. And if you look at the receiver, the center piece, the center wire that we just took that clear silicone out of is going to go on this little dot right here. And the larger tinned area, which was the outside kind of the woven wiring, is going to go on this big pad here. All right. And if you can look here, you'll see that that's what we did here. We put the larger piece on the larger pad, and then we put that center piece right here on this dot. So let me show you how that's going to go. All right. First thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and put your small piece on first, because that's the one that we've got to make sure gets a really good connection. The rest of it will fall into place with no problem. So I'm going to use some tweezers here, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to come on over. I'm going to lay it out like this, and I'm going to find that dot, and we're just going to, it's going to be a very quick, actually I'm going to cut that down just a little bit. It's a little too long for what I wanted, so let me just trim that back just a little bit, because it's a very small board and there's a lot of components right next to it. So, all right, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to go ahead and get a grip on it, and just get it to that spot. Make sure you don't go past it, because there are components right past that. So let me go ahead and just touch that right there. All right, so now we have our good solder, and as you can see, that center piece that was in the clear silicone, I think you can see that, yeah, is now touching that dot, but nothing else. Okay, so it's soldered to the dot. So now what we want to do is we want to bring the rest of this around, and we're going to solder the outside piece, and I'm just going to kind of heat it up so I can bend it a little bit. All right, and you're going to cut the excess off of it, right? So I think we got about that much excess. So we're going to go ahead now and lay that right here. And that should, let me just check and make sure it's clean. Looks clean. All right. So just to verify, I'm going to look, make sure we've got a solid piece there. It does look solid. It looks like it's on there very well. And so I do want to add just a little bit more to that. So give me 1 second. And it may pop off here real quick, but yeah, there it goes. Okay. So I want to go ahead and make sure that we get a really, really solid connection. So I'm going to turn this. I'm going to put that back on. I don't think I'd put enough pre-tin on there, solder on there to begin with. Let me go ahead and just put that back now. And there we go. That's much better. All right, so our end result, and make sure that everything's clean and it looks clean. All right, so our end result, before we put any heat shrink on, looks something like this, okay? So now you can see that we have everything added, right, like it needs to be. And now to make it a little bit more solid, I'm going to go ahead and take, and I thought I had a piece here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So I'm going to take some heat shrink, really fine heat shrink. Just feed it through the wire. Take it all the way up there to protect the components. And now heat it up. Okay. All right, there we go. And now the next spot is going to be, once we know it's solid, and you want to just take a look at it again. It looks good. I think everything looks really solid. So once that's done, I'm just going to go ahead and apply some hot glue just for support and make sure that these things don't come apart again. All right, and when you apply the hot glue, you want to apply it to both sides because you don't want the cable to flex. And I accidentally let it touch the table there, so don't worry about that. Just kind of rub it off. And there you go. So what you did was you now replaced the two antennas. Sorry, I know everything's vibrating. I got my kids playing upstairs, so this camera may be a little shaky, but what you've got now is everything on there properly. You've got brand new antenna replacements on there, and you've basically got a perfect working receiver. So, all right, so I hope that helps, guys. It's a really quick fix, and you can get the wires from anywhere, any online site. You can get them from Cyclone FPV if you want. I think we're going to have them listed there, but if not, Banggood, Hobby King, I mean, any place has them. Probably pay about $1, $1.50 an antenna, but you end up saving yourself a very good and pretty pricey receiver. So this is a great fix, and it takes all of like 5 minutes to do. As far as the paste goes, I use SRA product, and we've actually applied for a dealership for this company, and they've approved it, so we'll probably carry this on our site too. But there's some good flux paste here, and you're going to use a number 135. These numbers do matter, so if you go on Amazon or whatever and we don't have it on our site, look for number 135. And as far as your flux pen, again, these numbers matter. This is SRA. You want to look for 9920, all right? And then for solder, I use a Kester 6337 solder, which is awesome. And you can find that on Amazon also. Let me grab one real quick. This is the solder that I use. This roll has lasted me, I think, a year, and I do a lot of work. So, I mean, you'll get a lot out of it. And then for my soldering gun, I use an Xtronic rework station. But the main thing is that I keep mine at 360 degrees Celsius, okay? So I hope that helps, guys. That is a good fix, and I promise you the signal strength is going to be super on it. So let me know if you need any help with that, okay? Talk to you later. See you. Bye.